After the boss wins the battle, he goes out to check on the knights to see if any of the ones who might still be alive want to surrender and can be helped. And Clarence is like, there's no use. There's no use. You can't help them. There's too many who would be dead and wounded. There's too few of us. And it's going to be dangerous anyway because, these are not people who give up. And sure enough, the first person they found went and stabbed the boss. And he said the wound wasn't bad. So they took the boss back and they bandaged him up, and he was doing well and he was writing. And then the bodies began to rot. Now, rotting animals is one of the worst smells ever. So I go on walks, long walks, and sometimes I walk near the road. And when a deer gets hit and it gets knocked off the road into like a farmer's field or a drainage ditch or something like that, where it just sits there for days, it develops this smell. And it is just absolutely awful. And the problem is that it also draws carrion birds and vermin, rats, and such, which spread disease. And as the body rots, it spreads disease. And the Mongols were infamous. They had, if there was somebody who was infected with the plague, they took them, put them in a catapult, tossed them over the wall so that the plague spread through. But bodies themselves, it contains a lot of bacteria. And when you die, your body stops fighting the bacteria. So the bacteria start eating away at the body, which causes the smells. It also means that these bacteria start to change a little bit, and they can poison you. And so what essentially happened was, here you have Clarence and the boss and all of the other cadets kind of walled in behind the bodies. And they don't really have a good way to get out, because they have the trench filled with water and more bodies, and then these bodies. And they didn't really plan an escape route. And even if they did escape, from at least the reports that Merlin brought, so Merlin may have lied, at least the reports that Merlin brought, there were knights arranged outside, setting up other camps, preparing to attack again. So, maybe they could turn off the thing, get on, pack up some guns, portable ones, not Gatling guns, because, yes, Lolly, I know I say, a lot. And so the boss and Clarence and the cadets could grab some portable guns, some portable rifles and revolvers and whatever other supplies they have stashed away and leave the bodies. But they don't. And Merlin ends up maybe actually doing real magic for once. And he says the boss is going to stay asleep for 13 centuries. And Mark Twain finishes reading this book and then goes to talk to the stranger who gave him the book way, way, way back in the prologue. So we're coming full circle. We are exiting one level of the story because, once again, this is one of those stories within a story within a story, because you go 3 levels deep at points. And they step out of the story into Mark Twain meeting the stranger, who is the boss, we think. And he goes to the stranger's room, knocks on the door. Door opens up, or knocks on the door. There's no response, but he opens the door and he pushes the door open because it wasn't locked. And he goes in and he's talking, or he's seeing the stranger talking. And the stranger is hallucinating that Mark Twain is Sandy. And he's hallucinating Hello Central is there. And he's hallucinating that everything was a dream or is a dream. And if you ever get really sick with a high fever, it's difficult to tell what's real from what's not real. And you get these weird fever dreams that things just don't make sense. Well, they make sense to you when you're in the dream, but the actual things that you're thinking don't really make sense. So here you have the stranger, and he's kind of passing out. He's fidgeting with the blanket. And he does something called a death rattle. Now, there is a type of breathing called Cheyne-Stokes breathing, which is also known colloquially as a death rattle. And what it is a person just kind of lies there, and then all of a sudden takes a big deep breath, breathes out, maybe breathes normally for a little bit. But it's this sort of deep gasping breath. And the people who do it aren't really disturbed by it. It's just their bodies are shutting down. And breathing takes a lot of work, or can take a lot of work. So it's like they don't really need to breathe because their bodies aren't doing that much. And so they don't breathe that much. And then they do take one of these big gasping breaths, and then they breathe normally for a little bit. And then breathing becomes too difficult, and they just slow down a little, and they gasp again. And this is something that dying people do. And if you ever have to watch somebody die, or get to watch somebody die, because being with somebody in their last moments is a kindness to them. Holding their hands as they go away. But if you ever in there, you'll notice the sound. It's a different type of breathing. And you can kind of get a sense of how long they have left by how close those gasps are together. But anyway, so the stranger died, and then Mark Twain wrote up the book and left in the bits of him as a framing device, assuming, of course, that the stranger actually existed. But, story within a story within a story, and Mark Twain lies a lot. So, but this is the end of Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. I hope you enjoyed it.